So let's talk about some limitations to the Coase theorem. Okay. So remember, the Coase theorem reframed the problem right, in such a way that it's really getting at the core of environmental issues, which is the right to pollute versus the right to be free from pollution. But the allocation of the right, still matters. Right? So Coase theorem says it doesn't matter who you're allocated to from a societal point of view, the outcome will be the same. But as we just saw, right, it does matter within the parties. Okay? So whoever you give the rights to is going to benefit. So then the essential question, the ethical question is, who does the force actually belong to? Now, this is not a question that Coase theorem or we can answer in economics, right? This is a moral and ethical question, right? Does the right? Or maybe even a political and cultural question. Right? Who does the forest right belong to? Right? How much of a right to pollute do these people have? But what Coase theorem emphasize is that if one party does not have the property right to a resource, then their desires will be non-actionable. Right? So we can, complain and express our grievances about the deforestation all we want, but unless we have some claim to the property right, then our opinions are, for lack of a better word, irrelevant. Right? Who should anybody listen to us, and why how can we make them listen to us, right? So thus property rights must be transferable in order to address the need of different parties, right? And when we look at from the scope of the Coase theorem, the deforestation of the Amazon, for example, right, is no longer a pollution problem, right? Because an allocation, right? We know that there's a better allocation that could benefit both parties, that could benefit the people in the city and benefit the people in the village. But because the people in the village cannot sell the land because it is not legally theirs, then we are unable to achieve that optimal outcome, right? Property rights must be assigned. Right? They must be able to own the land in order to be able to sell it. Right? So that's one issue that we must address before Coase theorem can be applied. Second issue, the marginal cost curve. Now, through this exercise, we've been speaking as if the city here agrees on what the marginal cost to them is, right? What is the value of the forest? Okay, but then the city, right, is not one individual. The city is made up of people, right? Different people with different sets of interests. So where does this actually come from? We talked about this in chapter 6, economic valuation. Right? How much does the society value the services that nature provides? And so getting an agreement, right, it would be difficult, right? But and practical wise, right, you can think of it this way, right? If we're in a scenario where we could negotiate with the village, right, who represents us, right? Who represents the people of the city to negotiate the village on our behalf, and who and do we agree, right? Do we agree on a price, right? That to sell the land, right? Some people in the city might say that, might believe or feel that the first few acres, right, should be worth a lot more, right? Some citizens in the city, right, will not accept this valuation for these first acres of land. Okay, and vice versa, right? Some might believe that the environment is not that important, so it should not be this high. And you can see that if you can see that by changing this curve here, we're going to change the optimal, right? We're going to change the optimal outcome. Okay, so where does that come from? Right? Again, that's a more political question, right? That the city or a community have to figure it out. Okay, now we do run into problem of the free riders effect. Right, whenever we are talking about group activities, hey, most of you have experienced this. So I used to assign group assignments. What's the number one problem, number one complaint about group assignments? Right? Somebody doesn't do the work, yet they reap the benefit. Yeah, that's the free riders effect. Okay? Suppose that the city wants to pay the village, right, to not to harvest, basically buy the land to conserve. Well, who in the city pays? Right? Because if I don't pay, somebody else pays. I get the benefit anyway, so why would I pay? Okay, so that's one problem like that that might come with this negotiation. Second problem is the holdout effect. Right? So, for example, right, let's say, what if the city owns the right and the village, wants to the village wants to buy the right from the city. Okay? But what if there's one group, one particular interest group within the city, they want more money for that acre, right? Land maybe, just because based on the physical location of the land, you might not be able to parcel it out that easily. So the one party, right, might have an advantage, right, to hinder, right, to make a disproportional demand, right, because they're in the way, right. When I think about this, it reminds me of the movie Up. Right? But in the movie, there's an old man who refuses to sell, so the mall have to build around the house. Okay? Coincidentally, by the way, just a fun fact, right? There is a true life story, right, that involved with an old lady with a house she refused to sell, and this is in Seattle, I believe, right? And they ended up having to build a mall around her house. Okay, so that story by the time they build the mall, she already passed away, and there's the house, and you can see people tying up the balloon from the movie Up over there. Okay, finally, right? What might be some of the issues regarding equity when utilizing negotiation method? Remember, Coase theorem says the government get out of the way, right, and we make transaction costs negligible, make everything clear, and let the party negotiate. Okay, but at the end of the day, right, negotiation ability is based on relative status, right? Especially when we're dealing with these natural resources, right, where you have communities who are not familiar with the idea of maybe legal documents, right? What is a title, right? What is a legal title, right? And so, is it fair? Right, we can ask this question: is it fair to say to just let people negotiate? Right, knowing that they might be negotiating from a disadvantage, just culturally, they might not understand the legal ramifications, of property rights issues. Now, this is still best, even though, right, this is an issue. Coase theorem, utilizing and understanding Coase theorem, right, we might be able to balance the advantages out, right? Because remember, we said that who we allocate the rights to, will benefit, right? Whoever gets the most right will benefit, right? So in this situation, right, then this gives us an ethical guideline on how to use allocation of right to offset, right, this unfairness in negotiation abilities. Right? You can just give the people who you believe, and you have to justify this, right? You believe that has an unfair advantage in I have a disadvantage in negotiation, and then you can allocate the right disproportionately to that party, so that they might compensate. You can compensate them, right, for this for this imbalance. Okay, all right, okay, and that is all.